Hello YouTube and fellow Yu-Gi-Oh! Duelists alike, this is Mewtwo Overkill here, aka Orichalcos 96, and I'm going to be giving you the update on the new update on the Orichalcos Challenge. So this is obviously the Orichalcos Challenge, which is a fun deck. The challenge concept was originally created by MCool40, but since then, a lot of people have taken on starting the trend of making their own Orichalcos decks and joining the cause to save the world. Kind of. So without further ado, this deck contains Oricas, and what an Orica is basically just like a proxy, or a custom-made, fan-made, fantasy card, that's just purely used for fun and collection purposes. So without further ado, let's get into the Orichalcos, my version of the Orichalcos Challenge deck. So first up we got 6 Orichalcos Soldiers. They're Orichalcos Soldier number 1 and number 2. They're just 4-star normal monsters with 1,500 and 2,000 each swapped. And obviously what normal monsters are in here for is for Rescue Rabbit. I'm going to run 1 Orichalcos Gygus. This card's I only run 1 now just because I needed to make room for other cards. And Gygus is kind of overpowered, so having him at 1 kind of helps make things a bit more fair. Whenever Gygus is destroyed by battle or effect, he can special summon himself immediately, and every time he is summoned this way, he gains 500 extra attack points on top of what he's already had before. If I use his effect during my opponent's turn, I have to skip my next draw phase. Next up, we've got Orichalcos Cutora. In my opinion, I think Orichalcos Cutora is more broken than Gygus, but since he is one of the key cards in the deck, so that's where I won multiple copies of it. It can only be special summoned from my hand by paying 500 life points. While it's on the field, all battle damage I take is reduced to 0, and when it is destroyed, I special summon Orichalcos Dexia, Orichalcos Shuneros, and Orichalcos Aristeros from my hand or deck. So this is the Orichalcos Shuneros, which is summoned with Cutora, as well as its arms, Orichalcos Dexia, and Orichalcos Aristeros. Orichalcos Shuneros' attack becomes equal to how much ever damage that Cutora negated while it was on the field. If Orichalcos Shuneros destroys a monster in battle, it loses attack equal to that attack monster's attack at the end of the damage step. Orichalcos Dexia and Orichalcos Aristeros. When Orichalcos Dexia battles, its attack becomes 300 more points than the attack or the defense of the monster it is battling. Orichalcos Aristeros does the exact same thing, except instead of being able to run over any monster, it can defend against any monster, because it will have 300 points more than the attack of whatever is attacking it. If Orichalcos Shuneros is not on the field, these cards are destroyed, unfortunately. And also, if Orichalcos Shuneros is destroyed while its attacker 0, I get to special summon the Last Stand. I get to special summon, which could either be the Last Stand of this deck or the win condition of this deck. This is Divine Serpent, which can only be special summoned by Orichalcos Shuneros. It has infinite attack and defense points, but a huge drawback and a winner-take with a huge drawback for attacking and a winner-take-all playstyle. When this card is summoned, I have to discard my entire hand and my life points get reduced to 0. However, as long as I control this face-up card, I remain in the game. I have to mill the top 10 cards in my deck to be able to declare an attack with this card, and this card is susceptible to card effects. You could, like, effect Veiler this thing there, I lose. GG. Next up, 2 Rescue Rabbits. These are alternate art proxies created by the wonderful, wonderful Shinshiro Guitar. And obviously, they're just there for the soldiers, make Xyz monsters, boom, boom, derp. And can't have a rabbit deck without tour guides. Pretty self-explanatory. Let me rank these. Slifer the Sky Dragon in here. Slifer has the full anime effect. I used to have the Great Leviathan in here, but he was a bit harder to get out, but Great Leviathan was more overpowered. Even though this Slifer has the full-blown anime effect, it is still not as overpowered as the Great Leviathan, because some card effects can still affect Slifer, as the Great Leviathan was immune to everything, and he had a really broken effect when he hits the field. It's basically auto-game. So that's why I put Great Leviathan in the side deck in favor of Slifer, although Slifer is also going to come out when I get my next Orica on the way. After I show the deck, I will show the cards that I am going to be getting soon, but have not arrived yet. But But this is going to be coming out for one of those new cards. And then next up, I run one copy of Mirror Knight Calling. I run one... Mirror Knight Calling is really OP. But it's just not a complete Orichalcos deck without it. It can only be ritual summoned from the deck with the ritual spell card Orichalcos Mirror. And when it summons, I get the four tokens, Mirror Knights. And yes, there are souls inside these knights. And each token comes in with a shield counter. When a Mirror Knight token would be destroyed, its shield counter goes instead. And when a Mirror Knight token with a shield battles a monster, it gains its attack becomes equal to that of the monster it is battling. And then once per turn during my main phase, if this is on the field, I can activate this effect to put shields on Mirror Knights that have lost their shields. So, like, you'd have to Mirror Force these twice to get rid of them. I know that's pretty overpowered, but the deck just isn't complete without Mirror Knights, in my opinion. Now, you could argue that, well, there is one more Orichalcos monster that you could argue that the deck is not complete without. It's Orichalcos Malevolence, which is not very good. It's just 1500 attack, and its effect is just, you can change the battle position of a monster. It's kind of lame. I mean, it'd be cool to have, but it's really not that good. Now for the spell cards, we've got 3 Seals of Orichalcos. This is the version made by Senshiro Guitar, but I am going to get a different version of this that is slightly more fair, but still broken. This cannot be negated or destroyed. This cannot leave the field, and it cannot be replaced by another field spell unless it's another Orichalcos field spell. When this is active, all monsters I control gain 500 attack. And, well, you know the playable Seal of Orichalcos? This is the one from the anime. But all monsters I control gain 500 attack. I can use my back row slots for monster cards. You can't attack a monster in the back unless the front's empty. And once per turn, during either player's turn, I can discard a card to negate and destroy any card. That effect is going to be changed on the new version that I'm getting soon, where instead of discarding any card, I just discard the seal from my hand. It makes it a bit fair that way, so that way I can't just negate anything I want. I actually have to be wise with what I want to do. And then after the first seal, you've got the second layer, which is Deuteros. All seal layers stack up their effects, so what this adds to the seal is once per turn, during main phase 1, I gain 500 life points for each monster I control, and when my opponent declares a direct attack, I can tribute a monster to destroy that attacking monster. Then we've got the third layer, which is Orichalcos Tritos. Activate... And you can't activate multiple seals in one turn. You have to wait one turn. You can only activate one sealed field spell per turn. What this adds is, if my monsters would be affected by my opponent's spell or trap card, I can choose to negate that card and destroy it. Then we have the fourth layer, Quadros. Originally, the seals only stopped at 3, but eventually people started making fan-made layers that go up to like 7. My layers only go up to 5. But what Quadros adds is once per turn, during either player's turn, when an effect monster of my opponent activates, I can negate that effect, destroy that monster. That monster then gets special summoned to my side of the field in face-up defense position. Monsters special summoned by this card's effect cannot be tributed or used for synchro materials. Then we have Orichalcos Pentos, which basically gives me unlimited monster reborns, while ignoring summoning conditions. Basically, it's once per turn, I can special summon any monster in my grave. Yeah, it gets really broke when you get to 5, but it'll be really late game. If I get 5 out, it'll be really late game. And yeah. Next, how do you search all these cards? You've got 2 Chosen Destinies. This is pay 1,000 life points to pick one of 2 effects. I either add 1 Orichalcos card from my deck to my hand, or I ignore the effects of an Orichalcos field spell on the field and destroy it. This is one of the few cards that can get past the Seal of Orichalcos. And then, more search power with Legend of Orichalcos I. Basically, this is Chosen Destiny continuous mode. Once per turn, I pay 1,000 life points, and I can pull an Orichalcos card out of my deck or my graveyard. And then we've got... This is a new card. It's pretty overpowered, but also it's pretty costly. This is Sabatael the Philosopher's Stone. This was the Hacks card that Jaden used to defeat Kageyamaru. And what this does is, when a Winkaribo is sent to the graveyard, I can add this card from my deck to my hand. That is irrelevant because I do not run Winkaribo. I purposely did not run Winkaribo in this deck because I didn't want to be able to search this card that easily, because this card's pretty overpowered. But what is it? How I activate... Well, what this does is I pay half of my life points to search any card out of my deck. And then this card returns to my hand. It's pretty overpowered. I can only use that effect 3 times per game. If I activate this card a 4th time, I get to pick one monster I control, and that monster's attack gets multiplied times the number of monsters on my opponent's side of the field. I think it's until the... No, it's permanent. Oh well. But yeah, this card is pretty overpowered, but that's why I only run it as a 1-of, and I don't have Winkaribo in this deck, so I can't search it. The only way I can get this card is if I draw into it, or use it on you, or use it with Nibelung's Treasure, because this card goes to its owner's hand after it's activated. But I also want to be tricky about that, because even though I get plus, because even though I'll plus, and my opponent will lose half their life, I still am kind of weary about just letting them search any card, because just being able to search any card is pretty overpowered. But at half your life points, and I have a limited number of uses for it, and you don't want to pay all your life points in one go, so it takes some skill to use this card. On the other hand, this card, it does take a little bit of thought to play, but it's a mindless +5, pretty much. This is Nibelung's Treasure, which is the only draw power I run in this deck. This card is overpowered, but without it, the deck would be really slow and unable to keep up with the meta. I don't run ban cards in here, so instead I'm just running this. Basically, the only ban cards I run are the Oricas. Other than that, everything's legal. Well, there's nothing on the real ban list, I should say. But Nibelung's Treasure, what this does is I select any spell card from my deck, and if the conditions of that spell card are correct, it activates on my opponent's side of the field. So it treats it as if my opponent is activating the card. So if there are any activation costs, my opponent pays them. Then afterwards, I draw 5 cards from my deck. I know that is really... It's the draw 5 cards part that's really overpowered, but the ability to Dark Hole or Heavy Storm my opponent and then be able to make my key plays without being hindered by what my opponent can do, just to be able to set up for what they will dish out next turn, it's really crucial to the deck. And Nibelung is overpowered as it is. Nibelung's Treasure is absolutely necessary just to keep up with the meta and elemental derpy dragonness. Next up, we've got the Trinity. Dark Hole, Reborn Heavy. Shouldn't have to explain what these do. Every deck has them. And Orichalcos Mirror, which is the ritual card for Mirror Knight Calling. Mirror Knight Calling can only be ritual summoned from the deck, which is also what makes the deck more fair, that if I draw Mirror Knight, since I only run one Mirror Knight Calling, if I draw it, it's dead. So that's another way I made the deck less broken. Then we've got Traps, Double Torrentials. Basically every card in here is an Orica except the staples. And the Tour Guides and the Rabbits, just because I wanted cool artworks for Tour Guides and Rabbits. And then Prophecy, this is a card that Pegasus used. This card can be hard to use just because of how the summoning mechanic works nowadays, but it can be really fun if you can actually get it to work. Basically, when my opponent is attempting to summon a monster, I activate this. And I guess if that monster's attack is above 2,000, less than 2,000, or equal to 2,000, if I guess right, that monster summoning is negated and added to my hand. Now, the thing about this that's weird is that I can't look at the monster that they're trying to summon, which means it's like the monster's still in their hand and it hasn't been on the field yet. So, and also, since it adds to hand, if it's an extra deck monster, it goes to my extra deck. So this card can be pretty hard to use just because it kind of breaks the summoning mechanic, but it's still a really fun card if you can pull it off. Next up, extra deck, we have Snivy. No, I'm just kidding. This is my other Divine Serpent. No, I'm joking. Extra deck. I am a brony at heart, but oh well. Just can't. I got the pony cards in here. Just these two I cannot virtually summon because they're rank 8s and there's no level 8s in this deck. They're just in here for filler and just to look pretty. However, This Bamf is the MVP Xyz monster of the deck. This is Orichalcos Dragon, rank 4, 3k B-stick, Orichalcos Eye on legs. Once per turn, detach material to pull an Orichalcos card out of the deck or the graveyard. Very, very good. And obviously use Rescue Rabbit with soldiers to make this guy. Then this is a pony I actually can summon. This is Rainbow Dash. Now the ponies are pretty broken, but they're like my trump cards. I wanted to have like a cool trump card that like would be unique to me. So I decided to go with these. There's another pony card in here which actually is more broken than this one, but they're like my trump cards. But yeah. Basically, when this card is summoned and during each of my standby phases, she gets one counter. Once per turn, I can remove a counter to destroy a card on my opponent's side of the field, and once per turn, I can detach a material to draw one card. So like I said, pretty overpowered, but it's a fun deck, so it doesn't really matter. And before anyone says that this deck is unbeatable, this deck is not unbeatable. My friends have... this deck has lost to rogue decks. Like, this deck's lost to Infernities, Agents, and Battling Boxers. So this deck is not unbeatable. Then we've got just basic stuff. Utopia, Shockmaster, Photon Pebble Imperative, which is which is ironically enough the only card in my extra deck that is not an Orica right now. Then we've got Pinkie Pie. She is again my trump card. I like to make her with tour guides, and sometimes I'll overlay Qtoras. When she's Xyz summoned, she's Heavy Storm pretty much, and then once per turn I can draw 2 cards and reveal them, but I take 1,000 points of damage for every time I draw a monster card. And with that effect. And once per turn I can detach material to have her get 1,000 attack. Next up, more staples. Xyz pretty much. We've got number 20, number 17, and Leviair. Obviously you want to run Leviair in a rabbit deck. And then we've got 2 Zen mains. Now the Orichalcos challenge can be a 3-round match. So that's why I run the side deck, which I'm just going to go through really quick because I don't want this video to be too long. But I run another Gygus, the Great Leviathan. If you want to know what any of these cards in the side deck do, just ask me, because I really don't want to drag this video on for too much longer. Another Mirror Knight Calling, the Pillager, Illusion Gate, Card of Sanctity, Card of Demise, Mischief of the Time Goddess, Surprise Attack from Beyond, Reflect Energy, Spell Sanctuary, Nightmare Trimirror, Take a Chance, Crossheart, and Last Trick. Like I said, if you want to know what the cards in the side deck do, you can ask me. I do respond to comments and messages, unless they're troll messages, obviously. With that, what I'm going to do now is show you some ways the deck is going to evolve. This is a card I'm getting soon. This is the monster I mentioned that's going to replace Slifer the Sky Dragon. This is Scab Scar Knight, and this is what it looks like. It's going to be a parallel rare, and you can read its effect right here. Just pause the video and read its effect. And the other card I'm going to get is an alternate version of the Seal of Orichalcos, which is, it's going to be this version. So yeah, that's it. So yeah, if this was the Orichalcos challenge deck, and if you like challenge or Orica decks in general, just drop this video a like. Those likes really help me get it out there. I really appreciate. Drop me some comments, tell me what you thought about the deck. And if you want to challenge this deck, I can do Skype duels. So if you want to challenge this deck and test your mettle against the Sacred Seal of Orichalcos, I will have means to contact me in the description, as well as the rules of this challenge, because this challenge does have certain stipulations, but it's nothing too ridiculous. It's mostly just advanced format, no Exodia, no burn stall, no final countdown. I will allow meta, because I guess, yeah. And there are rules surrounding there are other rules surrounding the Orichalcos challenge, but they're nothing like totally outrageous. So yeah, this has been Orichalcos 96 with Snivy. Muto Overkill here. And see you next video. Good day and good night.